Okay, so welcome back to the Northern Nerd Network. My name is Dan Schessel, and on today's Nerdcast, we have none other than Chelsea Thompson. Chelsea, say hi.
Hey!
And we also have some special guests with us today from Beamdog. We have Amber Scott.
Hi, everyone.
And Philip. I don't know how to say your last name.
Daigle.
It's Daigle. It rhymes with bagel. That was the worst insult the kids could come up with, so.
All right, so Chelsea is the first time she gets to hear that we have music.
Live intro music? What?
Intro music, yes.
That's so exciting.
Sorry,
There was a creeping Nehemiah in the background, photobombing our
I saw children stalking around.
Tiny little imps popping into frame.
Sorry. Yeah, we're missing a bear in our house.
And it's about that time to be getting ready for bed. These things are super important.
It is. So, yeah, right at this moment, I am missing a bear. Which I believe is probably in my car at the moment. So, yeah, hopefully it's there. I know it's. I know
if it's a bear emergency, I mean, we can wait. We can talk endlessly.
Send him out on a mission.
Amber and I can just gab for hours and hours.
He's adventurous.
One of my greatest strengths is being able to talk forever, actually.
Awesome. That's what we love here. To sit around and talk all things nerdy forever and ever.
Yes.
Her nickname at work is the Filibuster, but people assume that it has something to do with me because my name's Phil, and I'm like, there's no relation here, and it takes more time to explain it than the joke is worth, so I don't really say it that often.
The amazing American political tradition of holding up a bill by standing on the floor and talking until you can't talk anymore.
And then you just kind of keep talking. People bring you beverages.
All right, so we start off every week by sort of just asking everybody how was their week. So, Amber, we'll start with you. How was your week?
Oh my gosh, I have so much to talk about. It's been great. You know what? We live the nerd dream at Beamdog because we play and write video games all day, and then we go home and be nerds in our own life. So on the professional side, we finally launched our digital magazine, which is called The Familiar, and I've been working on it for what seems like my entire life, possibly several lifetimes. As it turns out, it takes a lot of work to get a digital magazine off the ground.
Who knew?
Right?
It's crazy.
It's a surprise. So finally, our first issue launched. I was super happy and spent all last week just in this pink cloud floating around the office, telling people how happy I was with the magazine. And we also did a live stream on Friday, me and Phil, at the office for Siege of Dragonspear, which is the new game that we're releasing sometime this year. And then yesterday, my best friend and her boyfriend came over, and we played Munchkin and Pirate Loot. So,
woohoo!
Awesome. That's the kind of week that we'd like to hear.
Your week sounds like it went much better than mine, Amber.
How did your week go, Phil?
Phil, how was your week?
So I have a unique position in that I do about 56 different things per day. So if you ask me to recount it, I literally can't.
I'm pretty sure Phil actually has one of those time things like in the Harry Potter movie, so he can do 2 different days at once.
No, see, what happens is I just don't get it done.
Oh,
so it's like that in Harry Potter, but imagine if Hermione was failing all of her classes.
Not that you would reveal to us if you did have a time turner, though. I think that's the pact of the time turner.
Wipe your memory. But we've been doing a lot of cool stuff at Beamdog. We're finishing up everything for Siege of Dragonspear, which is coming out in the very near future. Amber said sometime this year, which I feel like is too large of a span of time for people to, It's very, very soon. We're finishing up some really awesome work on our cinematics in game, and I'm dying for people to see this game because we're in that final home stretch where you're just pushing yourself and pushing yourself, and I want people to see it just so they can say, yes, this is great. Thank you for staying up until 6 a.m. every day for a year.
That's awesome.
That wasn't required as part of the development. I just wanted to do it.
All right, so Chelsea, how was let's just move on to you. How was your week?
Yeah, my week was pretty good, pretty mellow. I'm winding down a call out at the school that I've been working at. Actually getting ready to start a new job at a new school on the 29th. So I'm super pumped about that. It's really close to my house. I can walk to work in the mornings. Really excited about that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Living the life.
Yeah.
I know. Life things. So for me, I managed to do a little bit of shopping this week. So this week I picked up the Edge of the Empire beginner game. I've been dying to play this with a group of my friends. I'm not a very big RPG tabletop guy, so this will be one of our first ones that we've ever done. So I'm a little bit, I'm excited and nervous at the same time because we're gonna be doing this this weekend. So.
Is it your poor dice rolling skills that are making you so nervous, Dan?
Yes, it is a known fact that I cannot roll dice. I fail at it every time. I don't. If you can fail at one thing in life,
Is
dice
Edge
rolling.
of the Empire the one that is in the new canon, or is it old canon?
This is the Fantasy Flight one. This is the Scum and Villainy faction, or the end of it. So there's three parts to this. There's Edge of the Empire, Age of Rebellion, which is focused on the rebellion, obviously, and then on to Force and Destiny was the third book.
Well, I think you'll have a great time. I mean, tabletop is totally my bag, so I'm a little biased. But if you need any tips or anything, just shoot me an email because tabletop's where I got my start.
I played Star Wars D20 once, and it was a lot of fun, but I was really obnoxious, and I ruined the game for everyone else. So it was really fun for me, but not for them.
I'm so surprised. You can probably see the surprise lines radiating off my face. Last year we played a 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons game in the office that I DM'd so people could kind of learn the rules because we're like, hey, we write Dungeons and Dragons products. We should learn the new system. And Phil made a Green Dragonsborn sorcerer.
It was a sorcerer, yeah.
Named
His name was
Bort. Who would just pass me? He would just pass me notes all session of him pickpocketing and the other players and doing subversive, chaotic things to mess up their plans because he secretly worshipped Tiamat. So yeah.
It almost worked. I almost made an entire city fall into destruction, but they were too clever for me. They used common sense against me. It was my only weakness.
That went on your performance review if you're wondering why you didn't get a raise this year, Phil.
Well, I feel like it was justified.
It was worth it.
It was worth it in the end.
I mean, I got a lot of other people killed, so yeah, I would say it was worth it.
Fair enough.
Oh.
So yeah. Anyways, this is sort of an all-in-one kind of a package, right? So this is not the full game, but yeah, we're excited to try it out. And
your jumping point into it.
yeah, we're gonna try it out. It's a beginner game, right? So how hard can it be? And then we're gonna move on to this week here. I'm hoping to make it to the guest lecture series, The Last Alliance. Now, last week I was supposed to mention this. They have a new Facebook page. So if you don't know what The Last Alliance is, that is the Tolkien. Lord of the Rings, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have a guest lecture series that's happening this week on the 25th at the U of A. So go and check that out. It's a lot of fun. They're going to be talking about tabletop RPG, actually. Speaking of RPGs. And to continue on my theme of RPGs, I'm going to be going to RPG Day at Avalon Nights this Saturday, where I will probably be playing D&D for the first time. And so yeah, so not only am I going to be playing D&D all day at Avalon Nights, I'm going to go into playing Edge of the Empire Saturday night with my friends. So
nice.
It'll be an interesting day of all week RPG. That was the goal.
Is Trina coming with you to shoot footage of you playing D&D?
No. Thankfully not. It will actually be streamed though. However, I believe they're gonna have it on a Twitch stream.
Sweet.
So, yeah, it should be interesting.
Do you guys want to hear a great story about D&D?
Sure.
We always want to hear a great story about D&D, Amber.
Okay, Phil, tell them the story about when you were at Wizards last year
Oh, God, I
and
was
your
just about
penalty.
to tell that story. So, if you're playing D&D and if you're playing in an official game, you should trick one of the other players into naming their character Philip Daigle. Because if you do, it is now part of Dungeons & Dragons, the official rules, that anyone named Philip Daigle gets a -1 to all of his saving throws. And I have proof of this. I'll post a little link in the chat here if I can bring it up. Last October, I want to say. I don't know. It wouldn't let me send the address.
It was a little earlier than that.
Okay. We were at Wizards of the Coast in Seattle, and we were just meeting and greeting, and we ended up playing a game of D&D. So it was me and a few other guys, but Nathan Stewart, the brand manager for D&D, like the boss of D&D, was playing as well. And I swear, no word of a lie, I saw him fudge a dice roll. I swear it's true. And then I tweeted it. That was my mistake. I tweeted it on the internet, and I said, hey, I just want everyone to know Nathan Stewart fudges dice rolls. And then he's like, whoa, hold up, buddy. And so I get on a plane the next day, and when it lands, my Twitter is on fire, and I find out that they've released a memo throughout the entire company saying that effective immediately, Philip Daigle, producer at Beamdog, an officially licensed partner of Dungeons & Dragons, posted under the Twitter handle Daigledoppel an erroneous and egregious tweet slandering an important member of the senior leadership of Dungeons & Dragons. From this day forth, let it be known by all that Philip Daigle has a -1 to all saving throws. All Dungeon Masters should apply this penalty in any sanctioned games, including but not limited to Adventures League games, OP, convention play, and all Wizards of the Coast run games. And it goes on like that. So, that's what happened to me
That's official now.
last fall.
Blackballed.
That is the best story we've had on this show ever.
Oh
And
my God,
then,
that's amazing.
when everybody found out about it, they actually added it to Baldur's Gate. So in the upcoming patch and when Dragonspear comes out, if you name your character after me, you get a -1 to all your rolls. And so I thought, haha, guys, real funny. You know what? Let's add something else to the game. So now, if you name your character Nathan Stewart, you get a +10 to all of your rolls because apparently he gets to roll whatever he wants. So that's my story about playing D&D and why you should trick people into naming their characters after me.
That is the best story ever.
Thank you. It might not be as funny in 20 years, but...
No, it will.
I think it'll hold up.
Yeah, I
It's
think
pretty great.
I think it holds. All right. So, anyways, just to finish off my my week, we broke down, and we bought my kid Nehemiah. We bought him some Pokemon cards. Finally, he's been dying and begging us to buy some Pokemon, and we're like, fine, we'll get you some cards. So he's been carrying around his binder for the last week, like it's like made of gold. Like he's just in this thing like, I don't know. He's named all his Pokemon. He knows them all off by heart already. It's just insane.
Like, aside from their, like, actual classification names, he's given them names like Bob and Gorn.
yeah,
And, like,
Those are Pokemon names, yeah.
What he'll do is he'll like lay the book out and then he'll like make up a story in his head and you can hear it going off. It's so cute. It's so funny.
so then, in between your D&Ding at Avalon and your Star Wars D&Ding Saturday night, are you going to be taking Nehemiah to, oh, what's that? I hear our first news item, free Pokemon Day at Toys R Us on Saturday, February 27th?
That sounds exciting.
It is. I won't, because I won't be able to. However, Trina will be. She's already opted in to go and take him to go get his Pikachu card.
Yes. So yes, that is our news item for this evening. Fans of Pokemon will be happy to know that Saturday, February 27th is the official 20th anniversary of when the Pokemon cards and card game was first officially released in Japan.
Wow.
So the creators have partnered with Toys R Us. Yeah, 20 years. Oh, it just makes me feel old.
Yep.
Have partnered with Toys R Us, and they will be having free Pokemon Day at all Toys R Us locations, celebrating the 20th anniversary. So they've got all kinds of like prize packs set up. You can go in, and they'll be giving. There's a new sort of as a promotion for a new round of the game that's coming out. They will have a packet of special foil cards for the game, a coloring book, a poster, and if you go in and purchase the new portion of the game in its entirety, they also have a snazzy new binder to give you to put all of your cards in for the new game.
So can you send in the kid multiple times in different costumes, or is it like
a fake mustache and
there you
hat?
go. You send in 3 kids stacked together at first, and then you take one off, so it's just 2, and then you send the one in, and then you shift up the order.
Yeah, I like that plan.
I just think you just gotta keep putting different costumes on the same kid.
And the nice thing is that there's costumes for sale right there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, just buy another costume and then walk out the door and put them on and go back in.
No, you got to do
Return
it.
The costume.
You got to do it Gangs of New York style. You just set up like some scissors and clippers in your van, and they come out and you like shave their hair a little shorter and then set them back in.
Do you guys want to hear a story about Pokemon?
Always.
Okay, this isn't as funny as Phil's story, but it's one of my favorite memories.
I dispute that.
I used to live abroad for a lot of years, but I was back in Edmonton for a visit, and I was staying with my sister-in-law, and I got really sick. She had to go to work, so I'm staying in her apartment, like all feverish and stuff, and I was like, well, I should go out now while I have energy, get some movies from Blockbuster, which tells you how long ago the story took place, and then I'll be set for the day. So I walked the 2 blocks to Blockbuster, and there was this huge display of Pokemon VHS tapes with like 3 episodes per tape. And for some reason, I was like, hey, all the kids are talking about this. Maybe it's a great show. And I rented like 4 tapes because, of course, the episodes are like 20 minutes long. And went home and I watched them all. And my sister-in-law came home for lunch. And I was all like, like sweaty and in my pajamas and like a blanket. And I was like, sure, you have to come watch this. You have to come watch this. There's this little yellow guy, and his name's Pikachu. He's so cute. And then there's Squirtle, and had little sunglasses when they found him. He was kind of bad guy, but then he turned out to be nice, and she was like, what are you talking about? And so we watched like the first 3 episodes on our lunch break. She's like, this is amazing. I love this show. And I was like, right. She went back to work. I boxed up all the tapes and went back to the Blockbuster to get the next like 4 in the series. And the same guy was at the till, and he goes, wow, your kids must really love Pokemon. And I totally deadpanned. I was like, oh, I don't have kids.
Boom.
And yeah, that set off like a several-year obsession with Pokemon. I saw the first Pokemon movie in the theater. My very tolerant, loving, non-judgmental husband took me. We went to like the 10 o'clock show, so like there wouldn't be as many kids.
To be the very best.
Not as many kids, but still some.
But still some. Well, if I was a cool parent, I would let my kids go to a 10 o'clock Pokemon show.
That's fair. That's the hallmark of cool parents.
Yeah, no.
Staying up late to watch a special movie. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, Nehemiah has just been watching the shows back to back to back to back to back. He's like living in the Pokemon world right now, I swear. It's awesome. I couldn't be more proud.
It's weird that it's been such a cultural force for so long. I mean, when Pokemon first got popular in North America, I was like, this will be cool for a couple years, and then it'll just kind of peter out like every other fad in the universe.
Pogs.
And no, we're 20 years on. Yeah, Pogs was like the #1 example, and we're 20 years out now, and it's still.
Did we lose Phil?
We might have lost him.
He's just so stunned at like the incredible of hogs or whatever he was talking about. I never paid attention to Phil anymore. Although that just did give me this great idea that Phil and I should work up like a Jesse and James cosplay for when we're at conventions, and we can do like the Team Rocket.
Yes.
little
Oh, yeah.
intro thing. That would be awesome.
Yeah, so speaking of the Pokemon Day, anyways, apparently you have to be a kid to get your Pokemon card. You cannot be an adult, which is very sad.
Well,
So
in a
round up
metaphysical
all the
sense,
kids you know, even
aren't
if they
we all
don't like
kids?
Pokemon.
I know. I was looking at him like, oh, I can't go and pick up my own. He's having a hard time getting back in. Yeah, you can't. You can't. I can't walk in and get my own Pokemon card. It's very sad.
There we go.
Hey, you're back.
I don't know where it cut off, so I just won't bother retelling the story.
while you were gone-
Pogs.
You were talking about how exciting it was that it's lasted and stood the test of
Mhm.
time over 20 years.
That's
Unlike
really all I have to say.
things.
Also,
Yeah.
while you were gone, I had the best idea, which is you and I should totally make up like a Jesse and James Team Rocket cosplay for when we're at cons, and we can do their
Mhm.
cool little intro thing. Like
Mhm.
Andrew or somebody can be Meowth. Yeah, yeah.
I was actually going to put me forward as Meowth because let's just face it, I don't look good in a half jacket. But we can give it
That
a
works
shot.
too. That works too.
All right, so let's just move into talking a little bit more about you guys.
Sure.
You were saying a little bit earlier about the familiar. Now, what is the familiar for people who might not know?
Or who have tuned in late.
Or
I think
tuned in
you
late.
mentioned it off the
Yeah.
top. But
Well, the short answer is it's a digital magazine. It's all about Beamdog, about CRPGs, and about the video game industry in general. It's got strategy articles, it's got interviews with industry persons, fiction, contests, new content for games. For example, in this issue, this first one that just came out, we offered 2 free character portraits for the Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition game or the related Enhanced Edition games as part of an article that has instructions for all the different operating systems for how to download and install custom portraits. So you can learn how to put custom portraits in your game, and you get free portraits from Beamdog.
The key word is crunchy.
Yes. We like to try and strike that balance between crunch and fluff, which are industry terms for rules heavy and setting heavy.
Awesome. So why are you guys doing the magazine then? Like, aren't you guys doing enough with the video game?
I ask myself that every day.
Good question. Good. Asking the hard questions here. I like it.
All right, well, let me give
inquiring
you
minds want to know, Phil. Let us the goods.
I'll give you a little insight into how Beamdog works. So Beamdog was founded a couple of years ago. Well, what, like 6 years ago now, Phil? I don't know. A lot
I
of
think
years.
technically it was founded in 2009, and then I came
Right.
on board right at the beginning of 2010.
Mm-hmm. And our founders are Trent Oster and Cam Topher, who used to work for BioWare. And they're very different people, which is why I think they work so well together as a team of our founders. Trent is kind of more the hard-nosed business guy who's like, show me the money. And Cam's like, you guys, I have a great idea. Let's make a digital magazine. So as a random example, that's the sort of relationship they have. They went down to Wizards of the Coast at one point, and we're talking to Nathan, I think, who had been working with this team called Dialect to make their magazine, which is Dragon Plus. And he spoke really highly of the team and said, we should check them out. And we did, and decided that it would be a good working relationship. Basically, we tell Dialect what we want the issue to be about. We create a flat plan of all the different articles we want to see. We provide them with contact information if it's somebody that we know in the industry. And of course, we make ourselves available for interviews and things like that. And then they put the issue together for us. So it's less overhead on our part than making a magazine entirely in-house.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So you're doing a lot of curating of the content and then shipping it off. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess speaking of curating the content, what is that process like? How do you go about? Is it just whatever happens to strike your fancy? Is it sort of, or are you looking to fill particular sort of niches for each?
Well, the familiar kind of became my project sort of organically. Cam was in charge at first, and then he started to, because obviously he's kind of a high-level exec, he's got a lot of different priorities, started to move the project more down to our level at about the same time I got this new promotion. Since October, I've been the marketing and publishing coordinator. And I also have a history working in magazines. I started out my career writing for Dragon and Dungeon magazine back when they were in print. And so it was kind of a natural fit for me to take over. I was the one who pushed for the name The Familiar because I thought it was just perfect for what we envisioned, which was kind of a helpful companion to be at your side, something you can read on your phone or on the web while you're playing that would have all sorts of useful information for you. And
it's a spot-on name.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And from my days at Dragon, I'm used to having issues with themes. So one thing I did with Dialect is go through and we kind of picked out themes for each of the issues that would sort of inspire the different articles that we have in them. Our first one was, the theme was State of the Industry, and it just gave a broad look at what's going on in CRPGs right now. We talked about how we updated the art for the Enhanced Edition games here at Beamdog. We had an interview with Dan Tudge from Endspace all about Sword Coast Legends. We talked to Ben Vink from Larian Studios about Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, it was pretty great. Did I get all those names right, Phil?
I think you did.
Okay,
Woo!
That's kind of the big thing with Familiar is it's not just about Beamdog. It's not just about Baldur's Gate or the Enhanced or the Infinity Engine games. It's about the industry in general, CRPGs in general.
So, just add a question for people who may not know, but what is a CRPG to you guys?
A computer role-playing game. So it's kind of a nebulous concept, but I would consider games like Divinity, Original Sin, Fallout 1, Fallout 2, those sorts of games to be in the CRPG neighborhood, whereas a game like Fallout 3 or 4, kind of somewhat, but outside of what I would really care about when thinking about CRPGs. Like, those are role-playing games, but perhaps not CRPG, because that term evolved from any RPG on a computer to sort of a more tactical RPG. Means different things to different people, I guess.
Okay, so why are you guys doing Baldur's Gate then? Like, Baldur's Gate's been around for how many years now, and you guys are still working on it?
Baldur's Gate is one of those games where there's not really been anything like it. I mean, it took 15 years before Pillars of Eternity came out, and that's probably been the closest thing to the Baldur's Gate formula. And Baldur's Gate is in a unique position where, yeah, it came out, starting in 1998, but there's still like a really active community for it because there's been nothing like it. So we wanted to bring it back, essentially. It's a great franchise, but for a long time it was mired with technical problems. It wouldn't run on this, it wouldn't run on that, and it was just hard to get to. And so we thought, this is a great game. There's not a lot like it out there. People want to play it. Let's bring it to modern platforms. And that's kind of what started us off on the whole Enhanced Edition path. And then as we started developing the Enhanced Editions, we realized that people were also hungry for more content. They love Baldur's Gate. They love Baldur's Gate 2, but if they've played those games in the past, they've seen everything. And so there was this huge demand for original content, and that's kind of where we started building new things. And now that team that was building original content has sort of snowballed to now where we are with Siege of Dragonspear, which is where we're releasing an entirely new adventure within that Baldur's Gate feel and theme and everything.
So you guys just had your live stream there on, was it Friday? Friday.
Yeah.
And you guys showed off a lot of different things that you guys have been working on there for last little while. What are some of the most exciting things for you guys that you guys have worked on this project?
Oh, there's a lot to pick from. I remember playing the original Baldur's Gate when it came out. I think I was actually living in Seattle at the time, and it was just an obsession. Like, I sat and played morning to night, day after day for weeks. So as a tabletop gamer, Baldur's Gate was like the closest I ever got to a real kind of tabletop experience, being in the Forgotten Realms and meeting characters that I knew from, fiction and game supplies. So I was really, really, really excited when Beamdog brought me on board, and I started out as a writer. So actually getting to go in and write dialogue for classic characters that, I had loved for over a decade, because we've already revealed, say, we brought Minsk back. and we got Jim Cummings to do his original voice and reprise his role. And yeah, getting to write that sort of content was just a dream come true for me.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat. I mean, when Baldur's Gate originally came out back in '98, I remember cobbling together enough hardware to actually run this game that was just going to melt my system. And it was incredible. It was Skyrim before Skyrim. You could go anywhere, murder whoever you wanted. I mean, that's not what I did all the time, but it was available. And so just this feeling of freedom was so incredible. And so now I get to go back and create in that world, and it's been really exciting. I mean, my answer would have to be very similar to Amber's, where I'm excited for people to see their old companions again. So when you played, BG1 to 15 years ago, and you had these amazing memories of Minsk, Edwin, Viconia, all these, classic characters, it's going to feel like, it's 15 years ago again, My hope is that people are going to play Siege of Dragonspear and feel like they're 15 again or something, or however old they were when Baldur's Gate first came out. If people feel this deep sense of nostalgia and feel satisfied, then I'm going to be a happy camper.
You guys you've worked on a lot of like adding voices and stuff like to this game too, really. Like, tell us a little bit more about some of that. Like, who did you get on to come out to do some of these voices?
Well, we happen to have a really great story about how we contacted some of these actors. Phil, you were instrumental in that. Why don't you kick us off?
I mean, I don't know how great of a story it is.
It's a great story.
It's a series of things that happened. We reached out to everybody that we could. So after we figured out what characters we could bring into this expansion, we started just trying to get a hold of everybody. Every single actor that voiced an original character. So like Jim Meskimen, Jim Cummings, as Amber had mentioned, Jennifer Hale. She's famous for being in the Mass Effect series and a whole whack of other games. And so we went down to LA. We went to this company called Studiopolis. It's this studio that handles all sorts of things down there. And we're like, get us everybody you can. And they actually got just about everybody. So we had, I'm not going to give the exact cast list right this second, but we got back probably the majority of memorable voices from Baldur's Gate. And so I got to fly down and I got to meet these people that I had idolized for years and years. I mean, Jim Cummings is in the booth and I'm sitting there giving direction alongside Ginny McSwain, our voice director. And I'm like, can you do Pete from Goof Troop? Give me Pete from Goof Troop. And he's like, are you like you don't want to start something with Disney because they got deep pockets. And I'm like, nah, it'll be fine. Just give me Pete. Give me Pete from Goof Troop. So he gave me Pete, and I just swooned. It was amazing. It was incredible.
That will never come back to haunt us.
Yeah, it'll be fine, whatever. And yeah, I got to do that with a bunch of the big name actors and just get to hear the character come back after 15 years or even more. And it was amazing because these voice actors, they do 1,000 voices a year, but they remembered these guys. They remembered these characters. When I got to, I think it was Meskimen in the booth, and he was redoing Edwin after 15 years of not having done Edwin. He's like, I don't know if I remember this character. And about 2 lines in, he's like, okay, yeah, I remember Edwin. I remember this jerk. I remember this guy. So it was a lot of fun.
And Phil mentioned that we worked with Ginny McSwain, and she was actually the original, what's her title, Phil? Voice director?
Yeah, voice director / casting director.
She was the original casting director for Baldur's Gate in 1998 when they recorded the original stuff. So they put us in touch with her, and she's like, oh yeah, I know all these guys. I did the original, voice direction 16 years ago.
Yeah.
And so it was through her that we found a lot of the original actors, and it was pretty fantastic.
Dragonspear has been a big instance of putting the band back together, basically.
It really has. And then while Phil was in LA doing all the Hollywood sort of voices, Andrew Foley, who's the other writer, and I, and Alex Molzan, who's our producer, did all the Edmonton-based recording, because we recorded a lot of the VO for Siege of Dragonspear. I think we had between 7,000 and 8,000 lines that were voiced, which is an enormous amount for an expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And I became I got a crash course basically in working with ACTRA, which is the local voice acting guild here in Alberta. Mm-hmm. And basically, here's like a little trivia that a lot of people don't know about Siege of Dragonspear. Because we went down to Hollywood and we worked with these famous actors like Jim Cummings, all of our American work had to go through SAG, the Screen Actors Guild,
Yep.
and they have an agreement with ACTRA so that if we're doing a union job, it's union across the board. So we agreed to their terms that we would go through the union here in Alberta, and as it turns out, that's really complicated.
Yeah.
So Phil basically was like, okay, you guys have fun, I'll be in LA, bye. And I was like, sure. So I just called our rep, and she like faxed me over a whole bunch of spreadsheets and things because of course there's union dues, and you have to do certain numbers of auditions, and you have to have certain numbers of lines per characters in a 4-hour block, and so forth. So I think Andrew and I spent like 3 weeks pretty much solid at a recording studio here in Edmonton called Wolf Willow, just trying to get everything organized. We had a stack of scripts like as big as my entire body for all the different parts that we had recording, and I think like 50% of them were Mark Meir, probably.
Yep.
That guy, man, he's a writer's actor. He makes anything sound good.
He is just a workhorse for the industry.
You guys should get him on this show.
Yeah, definitely.
That would be amazing. Mark Meir, if you're listening, we'd love to have you anytime.
Just hide outside the Varskona Theater after they rebuild it and just ambush him.
After the new building's up.
Yeah.
And actually, at the Edmonton Expo last year, Mark actually emceed the costume contest in cosplay as Baloth, who's one of the characters he voiced from the Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition.
Well, and I believe he had his own panel too about voice acting at the con last year. Yeah.
Yep. No, he's been a real treat. So we actually hooked up with Mark Meir back when we were doing the first Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition. We were trying to figure out how we were going to voice some new NPCs that we were introducing. And somebody put forward his name, and we were like, oh, there's no way we'll get that guy. I mean, he's the voice of Commander Shepard or whatever. And we eventually made contact with him. We started talking, and he was enormously receptive to the idea. He loves Baldur's Gate. And so ever since then, we have worked with Mark on so many projects, and he always brings this incredible level of quality and performance to everything that he does. It's frustrating because after you work with Mark, you're like, well, okay, can we just get like 6 more of you, and then we never have to find other
Anybody
performers
ever again?
Yeah. You can just take over the entire voice acting industry.
Oh, and if you go to our YouTube channel, which is called Beamdog, YouTube/Beamdog, I don't know the address, there's a whole bunch of promotional videos we made for Icewind Dale Enhanced Edition that Mark Meir did in character with like how to survive Icewind Dale Enhanced Edition. I think it was actually called How to Avoid a Grisly Death in Icewind Dale Enhanced Edition.
We do a lot of weird
they're
things
quite
with this
fun.
company.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Those aren't weird. Those are awesome.
We just do these weird
That
crap
is
shoots, and
every
sometimes
day.
they work.
That is every day. That's what you're supposed to be doing, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess that's
Stuff at
true.
the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah. I mean, to the outside observer, it looks as if we're actually using a laser, but in reality, it's just a big cat litter tray of stuff that we huck at the wall.
That's awesome.
See what works.
So how do you guys like enjoy just working for Beamdog? Like what kind of a company is Beamdog to you guys?
I'll let Amber go first because I've been there longer, so my story's going to be way better.
Well, I said earlier it's a dream come true, and for me it was a long and winding road getting to Beamdog. I really love my job and the people I work with. It's an extremely creative and very flexible atmosphere because we're so small. We only have like about 25 people in the office here in Edmonton. We have a bunch more who work remotely, but compared
globally
to something like BioWare, like you guys have probably heard that David Gator just joined us as creative director.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went from working in an office of like 200 people to an office of like 20 people. It's a big difference. And of course,
a little bit of an adjustment, that's all.
Yeah, and we work on White Ave, and we've given him the equivalent of just kick the radiator a couple times if it stops working, and you have to jiggle the toilet handle this way, and coming from big shiny BioWare, I'm sure it's a bit of a shock, but so it does have that small company, almost like independent kind of startup feel, which gives us a lot of flexibility. Like if I have a great idea, I can just walk into Trent's office, which I frequently do, and say, hey, Trent, this is a great idea. You should let me spend a lot of money on it. And sometimes he says yes, and other times he says no. But there's no barrier there. No.
The key is to say, hey, I spent a bunch of money.
I have been learning
"And I
that.
spent a
Past tense, yeah.
Easier to ask for forgiveness than
Than
permission.
There you go.
I started, like I said, working in tabletop games for about 12 years ago now, I guess, maybe longer. Oh my gosh. I started writing for tabletop role-playing games, Dungeons and Dragons. I did a little work for White Wolf. I wrote a lot for Pathfinder and for Dragon and Dungeon magazines and a whole bunch of other things. But, being a freelance writer is extremely not secure. You never know when you're getting paid or how much, really, and work is very sporadic. So I always had to do other things. And we moved around a lot as a family, and when we came back to Edmonton, I thought the time was perfect to go back to school and get a degree in something I could actually make money in. So I got a business degree. I did a lot of management work and in retail and that sort of thing, and I'm a pretty good manager, so I thought that was the way to go. And I graduated. I got a job at a paint store and was prepared to, walk the straight and narrow and sell
Slog it
paint all
out.
day. Yeah, which is actually pretty fun. I didn't have any
Slam
particular
paint.
strong attraction to paint, but I turned out to, really enjoy it. And then one day, about a year later, Andrew Foley, who I met socially a bunch of times, emailed me and said, we're looking for a writer. Are you interested? And I was like, well, I'd love to talk about it. And Beamdog brought me on as a kind of a contractor. I did kind of evening weekend work for a little while as they learned how I wrote and I learned how the company worked. And then a weird series of coincidences led to, it was actually I got summoned for jury duty, and I was selected for a 9-week trial.
Oh,
And I
Yeah, I
went to
remember
Phil
that.
and I was like, I can't contract and be on a jury and work at the paint store. Like I just won't have enough hours in the day, so we've got to end this arrangement for the time being. Maybe I can come back later. And instead they offered me a full-time job. So there was a crazy 3-week period there where I was working out my notice at the paint store and trying to help out at Beamdog and also being on the jury all day. And it was a little nuts, but
We totally scooped that paint store.
yeah.
Well, I was wrong. Amber's
so
story's
all that-
better than mine.
So all that work for management and everything else like that.
It turned out to be, useful in the long run because when I came to Beamdog, I think part of the reason that I did so well is I could be a writer. I had that huge background working in the Dungeons and Dragons franchise.
but you have
But I
so
could
many
also,
other things in your toolbox. To
yeah,
bring to
they
the
started
table.
me, they started having me do shred reports, which is this special Canada thing. It stands for scientific research and experimental development. And it's basically if you do technological research as part of your business in Canada, you can apply for a tax refund from the government for the money that you spend doing this technological research. It's to help Canadian companies be more innovative and absorb some of the cost of technical development. And as a video game company, we do a lot of technical innovations. So they put me in charge of shred, and then I did some project management stuff, and now they've made me a coordinator. So my business degree actually did turn out to be useful in a way.
Anytime we crack open a dark, scary closet, we're like, just throw Amber in there. She can figure something out. And then hours later, she comes out bloody, but holding some sort of fantastic weapon.
A digital magazine or something.
But you
Look,
have to
look what I've
remember,
discovered.
never touch a duck in a dungeon.
Never touch a duck in a dungeon.
Very, very important.
I mean, that's just good advice outside of dungeons as well.
Phil, I don't actually even
pick up
know.
random ducks.
I don't actually know how Phil joined the company. I assume he just showed up one day and they couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah, there was this steam cloud that erupted out of the sewers one day, and I just kind of stepped out of it. And Trent was like, well, come on in.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Phil?
Yeah. Actually, so Cameron Topher, one of the two founders of Beamdog, he used to have a game development company up in Grand Prairie, Alberta. Most people don't know that game development has reached that far north. And I used to work there with him. I was originally brought on as a QA analyst, and slowly over time I moved into writing and design. And then eventually that company folded back in 08, 09. And then Cam went on to found Beamdog with Trent, and he's like, hey, Trent, I got a guy we should hire, and he's not bald yet, so bring him on board. And so I moved down to Edmonton and started up here, and initially it was just low-level production stuff, but as the company moved into actual game development, it was sort of a natural fit for me to move into design. And so for me, working at Beamdog has been just an absolute blast. I mean, I've been at this job for 10 years now, and Beamdog has by far and away been the best experience of everything that I've done. And I mean, I made a video game for Donald Trump once, so clearly my standards are high. Beamdog's been fantastic though. Like it started as just 3 people in an office, me, Trent, and Scott Brooks hanging out in this dingy little tiny horrible office, and now it's grown to a company of 40 some odd people, and so that's been an amazing experience and an amazing ride. And sort of mirroring what Amber said, because the company is so small, I feel like I have a big impact on everything that we do. You look at anything that Beamdog has put out in the past 5 years, and I can pinpoint things where, hey, that's me, I did that, or I made that decision, I wanted to do this or that. And so that's what I love about it. I don't know if I would ever be happy working in an extremely large company where I can't have my impact felt on whatever we do, because it's hard to feel ownership of a product or a game or something if you're just the dude that's working on eyeballs for 6 months. So Beamdog is great in that you have an impact. It's a small company, everybody knows each other, and it's great. And I think that's one of the reasons that Dave Gator wanted to join up with us, is that impact is felt. So I love Beamdog.
Listening to you and Amber talk about yourselves and your skill sets and where you're from and just how passionate you are about the games and your history with the games, and I think it speaks volumes about the company, the caliber of people that they bring on, and that seems to be a commitment that they have, finding people who not only have the business acumen but really have a passion for the gaming side of the game. That's what's at the heart of the company. So that's awesome listening to you guys talk about it.
Yeah. And I think we're very consumer oriented. I mean, whenever we have a high level discussion about like, oh, we could make this game and blah blah blah, we could do this for DLC or do that, I'm always on the side of, okay, but if I'm a user, what kind of value am I going to get out of this? Is this awesome? Or are you charging me enough money or too much for what we're giving? And so that voice is always in all of our meetings. Someone is always fighting for the consumer and say, okay, are we giving them the best deal? Are we giving them the most game for their money?
And on a personal level, too, I mean, Cam and Trent have been at AAA game companies. They've worked in giant corporations, and they know the kind of stress that can come with being in the video game industry.
Yeah, we don't do crunch.
We don't do crunch. We don't do, giant bags of overtime. We do time off. When you've got time off, your time is off. Nobody emails you. Nobody's calling you. Your vacation is your time. And they're really receptive to anything that's going to make the employees' lives, better.
Yeah.
So we're definitely benefiting from their experience.
I think they saw firsthand that, yes, you can grind up your employees' souls to use as fuel for your development furnace. But after...
burn through the best people and that doesn't serve anybody.
They're just empty husks, and they don't burn half as well.
It's like in Settlers of Catan when you turn sheep into like lumber so that you can build roads.
You can't go back. You can't go back.
Yeah, no.
Oh my god, that's the best analogy for like soulless corporate use of labor I've ever heard.
Have you heard it here first, folks?
Ah, yes.
So
who doesn't love a Settlers of Catan analogy?
It's my favorite.
This is turning out to be the best show. I love it. So, like just having the small feel and the impact that you guys have, that you guys feel like you have. I don't know. Like, I totally lost where I was going with that one.
I
know where you're going. It was
right
really
there.
good. It was really good.
It was going to have a big impact on this whole conversation today. But, anyways, yeah. So, I don't know. Talk.
Well, actually, I've got some questions. So,
I lost it.
Yeah,
Amber Amber has mentioned her love of the purest form of gaming, tabletop, pencil and paper gaming. So I'd love to hear some stories of your favorite memories, favorite experiences, favorite editions, favorite dungeons
Oh
that
my
you have
gosh,
done.
so much.
From your roots, your humble roots of paper and pencil.
I mean, I've always, well, not always been a gamer. Like, I didn't come out of the womb rolling dice, but I probably would have if I'd known that was an option. Some friends of mine and I started playing D&D, like basic, when I was in junior high, I guess. So it's been like, I don't know, like 25 years I've been a gamer. And as I got, and I'd always wanted to be a writer, but for some reason it wasn't until I was, in my 20s that I was like, wait, people need writers to write games, and I love playing games. Why have I never made this connection before? And I pitched a few articles to like Dragon Magazine, and I wasn't very good back then, so they didn't really go anywhere. But I kept on playing. I really loved the White Wolf systems from the late 90s. I started out playing Vampire the Masquerade 2nd Edition, and it was one of my favorite games. We played a game called Aberrant, which was the White Wolf superhero system, which is another one of my favorites. And, of course, Dungeons & Dragons. I played 2nd Edition a lot. And at some point I got good enough that I started to actually sell a few of the articles that I wrote. By then we were almost into, we'd just started 3rd Edition, I think. And so I did a lot of writing right when 3rd Edition came out. And the more I wrote and the more the folks at Paizo helped out, because back then Paizo was publishing Dragon Magazine as a licensor from Wizards of the Coast. They were super generous with like teaching me the ins and outs of the writing industry. And so I started going to conventions, I started going to Gen Con. One of my big kind of pushes as the new marketing coordinator is I really want Beamdog to go to a lot of conventions. So we're going to go to Gen Con this year, we're going to go to GDC, the Edmonton Expo again, and actually have a booth this year, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Woohoo.
And I'll tell another great story, which is the story of my first Dungeons & Dragons book. So Phil has heard this one, but so my first or second Gen Con, I forget which one it was. I think it was the first one. So it would be 2004. I went and had a blast. It was my first experience. It was just like hugely exciting all weekend, and I was awake at 8 a.m. every day, and I wasn't in bed till like 2 a.m. And we had this roommate who snored, so I was a little sleep deprived. Okay, a lot sleep deprived. I didn't drink coffee yet, so that was like a big thing. And on the last day, I went to a seminar called Secrets of Eberron, because Eberron was the big system then. And I had actually gotten a little bit into the industry because a friend of mine, Rich Berlew, had come in second in the contest that Wizards of the Coast used to design the Eberron campaign system. They basically said, pitch us a campaign setting, we're going to publish a new one. Keith Baker won with Eberron. My friend Rich came in second. He went on to have a great deal of success with his online comic strip, which is Order of the Stick, which I'm sure a lot of people read. And so through him, I was sort of meeting Wizards people and talking to them. So I go to this seminar and I listen to all this stuff about Eberron. And afterwards I go up and I introduced myself to one of the panelists, who was Chris Perkins. And he was the R&D director, I think, at the time at Wizards of the Coast. And I walked up with this big smile and I was like, hi, I'm Amber Scott, I think I said. And he goes, oh, hi. And he, was used to meeting people. He started to shake my hand. I thought for some reason he recognized my name. And I said, oh, you know who I am? And he said, no. Who are you? And I said, nobody. I was really tired. And just then some guy walking by, I have no idea to this day who this guy was, stopped and said, I know who you are. And I said, really? Who am I? And he said, you write for Giant in the Playground Games, which is Rich's site where he did Order of the Stick. And I said, that's right. Yes, I do. That is who I am. And at this point, Chris took pity on me and said, oh, yeah, I think Rich might have mentioned you or something. I'm sure he hadn't, but he just wanted to get this whole awkward introduction phase out of the way. And I finally got collected enough to say, I would love to write for Dungeons & Dragons. I write for Dragon Magazine right now as a freelancer. And he said, well, send me an email. I won't reply because I never do because I get like 400 emails a day. But keep emailing me and I might have something for you. And I was like, great, good to see you. Thanks, bye. And got myself out of there as fast as I could. But I took him at his word. My best advice if you want to get into role-playing or you want to get into video games is just ask people for advice. Ask people for work and listen to what they tell you. I've gotten a lot of work just by believing people when they told me, to pitch something or whatever. So I emailed Chris once a month for like 8 months. Just said, hey, it's Amber again. Still emailing you. This is what I've been doing lately. Thanks a lot. Bye. And eventually he offered me a book, and I wrote half of a supplement called Secrets of Zendrick, which is all about the mysterious jungle continent of Eberron. That's
amazing. So just keep trying. So before, I was going to ask, being the small company, what kind of things, Philip, have you specifically worked on in this game?
In Dragonspear?
In Dragonspear, yeah.
So I sort of have the title of director on this thing, which is pretty ill-defined, but it basically means that if there is a decision to be made in the game, eventually it has to roll up to me, and I have to make that decision. So literally everything in the entire game. Initially, it started. I didn't do a lot of direct writing on this thing. That was mostly Amber Scott and Andrew Foley. But I was reviewing all of the text. I helped design the entire campaign from start to finish, layouts, area maps, all that sort of thing. I defined the new characters. I think I ended up designing the original plot of this. Yeah, I did actually. I remember I was tossing and turning that night because I couldn't figure out how the heck we were going to do it. But yeah, so pretty much every aspect of the game has some part of me in it, which is good, but potentially bad if everybody hates the game. So,
There's a special Philip Daigle created Easter egg hidden in the game that has to do with a battle with a dragon. So I think some people who are fans of classic games may recognize this once. I don't want to spoil it, but...
I hate to... It's such a cop-out answer to say everything, but that really is how it is. Like, I can't really find a part of the game that I didn't have some hand in helping design or build.
That's awesome. So, what can people expect from Dragonspear when it releases?
The greatest expansion pack in the history of Baldur's Gate. It's going to be a lot of fun. So it's 25 hours of new adventure, basically. So it's 25 hours of the main story of Baldur's Gate. It's not just like a side quest, and then we went up north and dicked around for a bit and blah, blah, blah. It's the original story extended, and I think people are going to be really excited to see like the classic story that they remember from 15, 20 years ago expanded in this way. I think people are going to be extremely happy to see the original companions come back and take on these incredible roles and hop right back into their old personalities. Beyond that, it's in terms of gameplay, it's Baldur's Gate. It's the classic, like real-time, but with pausing gameplay that people know and love. But we've added all sorts of new challenges and things that you couldn't do in Baldur's Gate 1 or 2, because we've spent so much time investing in the technology behind the Infinity Engine games. I mean, good Lord, they're probably not even Infinity Engine anymore after all the work that we put into them. You'll see these new battles that are unlike anything you've seen in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. Like, for example, spoiler alert, there are some sieges in the game. Maybe a couple. And you get to take part in these enormous battles with, I think in one of them there's probably over 100 combatants. And Baldur's Gate was typically like 20 people at most. So there's some pretty incredible large-scale stuff happening in this game. And we've just done a lot of stuff that you couldn't do in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. So I think I'm excited most for people to see new twists on classic gameplay that they know and love already.
All right, so we are sort of running out of time. Chelsea, do we have any other questions?
No, I don't, but it's been a pleasure to have both of you on and just listen to you talk about all of this awesome stuff. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
you for having us on.
It was a lot of fun.
Well, yes, thank you guys so much for coming on. A few announcements before we go.
Upcoming events.
Oh, and we lost Phil again. Just in time, though. Next week on the Nerdcast, we have cosplayers Wolverine and Wolverine's companion. I don't remember her name right now at the moment. But we have a couple cosplayers coming on the show next week, so come and check that out. We also have a bunch of events that are coming up, so go and check out our event page on the Northern Nerd Network Facebook, or just the Northern Nerd Network.
The snazzy new website.
The website there. Yes.
The
Go check
internet
out
thing. You click on it. There's text. We'll figure it out.
Good job.
Yeah.
And you can find us.
Yes,
we've got
where
Facebook.
can we find you guys on the web?
We're everywhere. We're just everywhere. You can find us on Facebook. We're called Beamdog. On Twitter, we're at Beamdog Inc. INC. We have a blog called the Beam Blog. I'm really proud of that because I made up the name. And it's blog.beamdog.com. Our website is beamdog.com, and you can read The Familiar at thefamiliar.beamdog.com or download it free on iOS or Android.
Awesome.
There are many ways to reach out and touch us.
Yes.
All right, so that is it for this show. I want to thank you guys so much for coming on, and I want to thank everybody out there for watching this edition of the Nerdcast. And I'll see you guys on the next one.
Thanks for having us on.
Bye.